Welcome back. Thank you for hanging out with us. Once again, this is the one and only IT and the D Show episode 456. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel. As always, hanging out with producer, co-host extraordinaire Randy Walker. Guest this week, Stephen Childs. He's the founder of Dorsay Creative. We're going to be talking about stuff we haven't talked about, frankly, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. SEO, email marketing, Facebook ads, getting digital marketing, getting your business up and running. So if you're a small business looking to increase your coverage, or if you're just interested in the topic, this should be a great one for you. You can find us online, itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Randy, I'm a little rusty, man. It feels like we haven't recorded in like a solid month.
It's been a week or two.
It's been a couple of weeks, but hey, if you want to catch us on the meetups, go to meetup.com/IT Thursday, 420. We're going to be at, Urban Rest Brewing in Ferndale. Oh my God. I'm trying to think of 420 caught me off guard, Randy. I'm thinking of a bunch of, don't get any ideas, you hooligans. Hope to see you out there. No cover, no speakers, just IT networking and some good beer from those. And I don't know what food truck's going to be there, but usually there's a pretty fantastic food being served up. So, Steven, how they treating you, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, good. How about you?
Never been better in all my life. So yeah, when I first heard about talking about this, I'm like, oh my God, SEO, social media, like, Facebook listings. And I'm like, we haven't talked about this in years, but I go, I can't imagine it's been stagnant. So I guess let's take take a step back, and I guess how you started Dorsay Creative. And then I want to get into some of the meat on what's new these days in that world.
Yeah. So I started it back in 2016. Before that, I was doing efficiency management, believe it or not. And, for automotive companies, and I was at OSU anyway. So I quit that job to move on to do something a little different. So it all kind of panned out. A client or a friend of mine came to me and said, "Can you make this website?" So I made the website, and then Dorsay was born from that. So it's I've been doing websites since 1995. So it's been quite a while, and it's changed significantly since 1995. I mean, the days of Geocities and Talk City are different, totally gone now, and now it's in the new age.
Well, I mean, before you had to do the dreaded FTP upload, and now you can just is everybody standardized still on? I know when we started the IT and the D and stuff, when we branded everything, it was all WordPress. It's still pretty much all WordPress.
Yeah, I'd say 50 to 60% of all websites on the internet are WordPress right now.
All right. I know we used to scour Template Monster and just try to find the one that didn't look the worst. And I think that's still what IT and the D is right now, is just that simple WordPress. So out of a typical small business, how many of them are still thinking about everything on this? Because I know when we were launching on Podcast Detroit and all the podcasts, I would tell them, you need to get the URL, you need to get the Instagram / you need to get the Facebook / you need to cover all your bases, you got to own your brand. Are people thinking about that still? Or I guess what level of sophistication are most of the small businesses these days?
Well, hopefully everyone is thinking about that. I will say that in all the conversations I've had with, small business owners and everything starting up, that is Facebook, Instagram, websites, getting URL, email. That's as standard as it seems to be as standard as, actually getting a business license. So it's you can't survive very well without it.
So, I mean, let's fast forward. What's changed? I mean, obviously gaming Google has been the goal since it came out, trying to get that, without paying for the ads to get on the top. I'm going to jump right into it. First thing I thought of was when I was looking at your bio and everything you're doing is, is everyone using ChatGPT now to game the system and put 1,500, dead pages indexed so you can get top row? I mean, at one point, do they just not get looked at anymore? Or is anyone even doing that? Or am I just an idiot for even thinking about it?
No, people are doing it. It's happening all over the place. I mean, it's going to break Google one day. It's just with ChatGPT, Jasper, anything like that. I can literally go on and create content that is really good. Still needs a human touch, I can create that content for that any page, any subject in a matter of minutes. Um, and I could generate 1,000-word blog posts, and I could do it all day long and end up with 10, at least 20, 30 really, really good blog posts to post.
I got caught in ad hell, and I had to see it through, but I got caught on a sponsored ad, and it looked like clickbait, and I wanted to do some research on what the hell this was going on. There was like 10,000 comments, and it was like, I don't want to call it a viral post, but it was a viral post. And I literally got to the end of it, and it said, this is a fictional story. And it was like this heart-wrenching story about some baby to the hospital and had some holes in the nose. And I'm like, I had to see it through. But in the meantime, there was 73,000 ads that I had to scroll past. Is that what people are doing now to for ad revenue to create content? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm so you get angry when you get through that.
So I think that a lot of people are doing stuff like that. And I mean, if you look at just recipe blogs, for example, that is a prime example of how to use AI to generate content that makes sense. You just drop your recipe in there and you say, tell us all about this. And they do. And then you have to you have to scan through all these ads. And it's just hundreds of ads, and then all this stuff you got to read through. That's like the ideal place to put that sort of content, because it helps Google understand what you're looking at. It helps answer the questions that Google wants to answer. And it overall just kind of makes a lot of sense to use that in a way that benefits you to that, in that regard.
But Google gets smart though, and their algorithm is constantly evolving. And at one point, does it see this as I don't want to call it a virus, but I do, but I don't, but I totally do. At what point does it see this as a virus? Because I mean, as soon as ChatGPT came out, there's also apps that check and see if it was written in ChatGPT, right? Or how soon before they're scanning it and just not allowing? Or is it part of life now?
I think it's pretty much well ingrained. They have colleges and universities have plagiarism checks that can't identify that anything was written by AI. You really can't necessarily identify it. Now, I mean, I've put in tell me about myself in AI and stuff, and it just spits out some fake story that's not even real. So it's not impervious. It can certainly not provide valuable information, but at the same time, if you give it the right prompts, it can certainly do that. And if you change it afterwards, it's likely to beat any kind of app sniffer or AI sniffer that's out there.
Okay, so one of the things we posted on the IT and the D Facebook page, we always post stupid memes, and this one's quite brilliant. And I showed a bunch of people that I know that were small business owners, and the person created their restaurant, and they, instead of how everyone in back in the 80s, that would be AAA Plumbing and AAA electricians, so you could be first in the phone book, right?
Yeah.
Phone book doesn't exist, so now what do? It was called Thai Food Near Me, and
Yep.
the restaurant's name, and I'm like, that's genius. And the guy I was with was an electrician. He goes, I need to get call my business electrician near me, and just have it point. And I go, is it going to be an epidemic now? Have you seen this going on yet?
Yeah, we see that. We use that search term and a lot of the stuff when we build out, different SEO campaigns. We'll create pages that are focused on that. And the way we do that is the near me actually becomes the city. So let's say it's roofing contractor. So roofing contractor Troy, right? Anyone in Troy who searches roofing contractor near me is going to pick up on that search term near me for Troy, because that's where they're located. As tacky as it is to name your business near me, it's not a bad idea to do something like that. If nothing else, at least make sure that you're capturing that on the search engine, and you're doing it in a way that does not use near me inside of your language. It's not going to work that way. It has to be actually near you. So in most of the cases, you don't even need to actually type near me anymore, because Google already knows where near you is. Since Google already knows that, I mean, this stuff knows everything about you.
We know.
Yeah. Since they already know everything about you, there's no way that they're not gonna to be able to pinpoint your location unless you hide it. And at that point, why are you searching, for a roofing contractor near you without using the specific term? So
that was my favorite thing with the TikTok, all the garbage going on right now with the hatred towards it. And I said, Google knows it knows what I'm going to eat tomorrow for lunch. Like, let's not think that these other companies are angels. We give up we give up everything in order to get free email and free maps. So, I mean, it is what it is.
And the scarier part is that you may not know what you're eating and Google does, but it's not because you're making the choice. It's because Google's telling you where you're going to eat.
Absolutely.
It's forcing you to look at what they want you to see when you're using it.
They did it today. They put a Oakland press, and they put out a new restaurant in Clawson called Biscuits and Gravy. That's literally what it's called. And I'm like, you're killing me, because this is, I'm doing this whole intermittent fasting. It's 11:30, and you're going to throw this ad out or this article on Biscuits and Gravy. Now I'm starving. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, what's changed? Because a lot of it, I got really ingrained into this like 15 years ago with SEO. And when we first launched IT in the D, we wanted to be on top of all, when the podcast launched 10 years ago, we wanted to be on top of everything. When the group started, we wanted, and now we just kind of let it go. What's changed from back then? Because you've been around since as long as I've been around, at least in the tech world. What are you doing different today? Or is it a lot of the same? Buying keywords, making sure you're indexed properly, is it a lot of the same?
So in terms of the technical stuff, yeah, it is to an extent. So what the activities of SEO are completely different now than they were even 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you could kind of scoop by without doing a whole lot, and you're still going to get indexed. But now with the amount of content that's being pushed out, it's really difficult to actually get indexed and remain indexed. And then on top of that, you have to have relevancy. So in 2021, Google launched something called the Core Vitals Update, which changed how your website has to look and how the code has to be written to that website. And they changed, in doing so, they actually broke the internet. At that moment, when they made that change in their algorithm, everyone who was seeing good search results from, things that kind of made sense, and now all you get are Pinterest ads and Pinterest, links everywhere. They're all over the place for a little bit. That was going on. That's kind of fixed itself. But ultimately, if you are using, Google or Bing Search Console and you're following their advice on there, you're gonna be able to be okay. But you have to understand, like, the relevancy is a major factor. SEO was just kind of one thing that you used to do. Now it's 4 different pieces of one thing that you do. There's 4 different pillars that are involved in it now. And within those 4 pillars, you have activities that have to be done to the extent at which, depending on how big your site is, that could be a full-time job. So there's SEMrush and Moz and all these different tools you can use to sort of track how much ground you're gaining and everything like that. And use that to your benefit, but don't take everything that they have out there don't take it as the rule, because there's still quite a bit of things that they don't know about how Google operates. But there's so much. I don't even know where to jump in on this question, because there's so much that has changed. I guess let me point at the most important things. Hiding your keywords inside of a page with the color doesn't work anymore. You can't mask your words on your page to be the same color as. Yeah.
So because that's just so scummy.
It totally.
Yeah. So that's called Black Hat. So the list of Black Hat SEO techniques has grown exponentially over the last couple of years. Private link networks are frowned upon. So anyone who had built one of those back in the day, those are pretty much bust now.
What are you talking, like the old Drudge report? That was like all it was links to other stuff.
Yeah, that's that. And then, where you host 10 different websites and just backlink to each other.
Yeah.
And it builds up itself and that. So, it's Yeah, it's changed significantly. And the most important thing is just make sure it's being done within accordance to Google and Bing rules and standards. If you're doing any kind of black hat SEO, if you get sanctioned, that's going to tank your SERP, your search engine results.
So one of the phrases I haven't seen yet is SEO sprints, and I understand what that means in software dev terms, but what does that mean in SEO terms?
So that's one thing that's relatively newer way of looking at how SEO can be done. Because of content is kind of the rule between SEO now. It's not about the technical side. Technical SEO is making sure your page is up to standards and the site's crawlable and everything. But then you have your high your like specific type of content. So the way we look at it is if you have let's say you have one main keyword that you want to focus for. So we're going to take that keyword and we're going to build an entire strategy around that keyword. We're going to identify, and this keyword could actually track for an entire year worth of content. So 365 different pieces of content can be generated for one keyword in most cases. And out of all of that, you have to come up with your strategy on what to do. So that's usually part of the sprint. It's the idea here is little chunks of activities that are less expensive than constantly doing all out SEO. So you focus on that one keyword and you create 10 pieces of content around that keyword, and you identify 10 other focus keywords that sit underneath that. And you build out your content, 1,000 words, 2,000, 3,000 words, but that's going to be based on what the competition's doing and how well they're ranking. Once you're finished with the sprint, you've got all the content posted, you watch it, you make sure that the index has grabbed it and it's picking up and it's being crawled and everything. And then you wait. And what happens typically with these sprints is that within 30 to 90, maybe 120 days, you can go from no listing at all on any page, so that count starts at 100 all the way up to 9 or 7 on the search page. And Google has a new thing now where it's lazy load. You don't actually have to push the button to go to the next page anymore. So people in their heads aren't realizing that they're actually on page 10. So if you're on page 10, you're within 100 in the search ranks, you still could potentially get quite a bit of traffic from that. It's when you're in the 9s, 5, anywhere in the top 10, I guess. You're going to see some pretty good results out of that.
Is Google, since Google owns YouTube now, are they, because I know I've talked a lot with Tom Lawrence, who does a lot on YouTube, and he always said you got to create similar content, release it in a similar pattern fashion. Is the Google on the website, are they using similar rules when you're released, or is it just, I don't, do you know what I'm trying to say? Are they going by the same rules, or what, or is there anything that they can do to kind of be favorable in Google's eyes?
Well, I think that where that comes from, the cadence, the posting cadence that you have to fall to, that really comes from viewability, right? So people knowing that your blog is going to post, or knowing that your video is going to be there on, every Saturday at 3 p.m., it actually helps maintain traffic. And the higher traffic you have, the more relevance Google sees your content, which increases your ranking in the search engines. So I think that's kind of where that might be coming from, is the viewability. I'm certain that Google's algorithm tracks many hundreds of things that we don't even know about,
sure,
in addition to the list of 100 things we do know about. It wouldn't surprise me that would be, your posting cadence is important, because if all of a sudden Google crawls your page today and you have 100 blog posts, they crawl it, let's say the next week, and you have 200 blog posts, that's gonna raise some flags in the algorithm and say, okay, you typically don't normally go this way. This is not normal for you. We know that in 10 years you've posted 100 pieces of content, and now you're doubling it down in a week. They're going to know that because the algorithm's going to be able to see the dates of when it was published and everything. I'm not sure that would hurt too much, but it would be enough for Google's algorithm to know to not crawl you, and that could potentially hurt.
Fair. So I gotta talk to you about something near and dear to my heart. I see part of your offerings as email marketing, and being on the end of some drip campaigns. I gotta talk to you about that, because like I've gotten to the point now where I pick one a week and I go, a little coaching, because they'll send me that, did you get my last email? Did you get my last, or on LinkedIn, did you get my last note? And I'm on the fourth one, and it's like, do you want to talk now? And it's but they missed the target on who they're talking to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't buy insurance for my company. Like, why are you texting me or emailing me? How much, and the ones I think that do it right do a little homework. I guess, how much coaching are you giving to your clients that, like, don't just grab a list and start, hitting them with a drip campaign? Are you letting them be educated on who their customers are, or opt in only? I guess what's your what's best practices in that sense in your world?
So a lot of those, just like I would call junky automated emails that come out. I get so many of them too. Like they're massive, and it's kind of annoying when you get like 20 a day. Most of those are driven by software that kind of crawls the internet and pulls emails out. So in that regard, I don't typically recommend doing that unless they go with someone who actually knows exactly how to go about doing that automation. Otherwise, automation can be amazing, because we'll run an inbound marketing campaign for a client, and then we use some kind of software, CRM, that's like HubSpot or Salesforce, and we use that to create an automated workflow so that when someone fills out the form that they got to from your ad or organic search, that form uploads into HubSpot, and then HubSpot will automate the process, or we automate it for HubSpot. And what it does is it spits out an automatic response the following business day at a normal time, like when you think you would get a reply. Hey, my name is Sandy, and I'm the general manager here. I got your email, and I wanted to know if you wanted to set up a time to talk. Here's my calendar link if you do. Now you've eliminated the entire need to actually have Sandy make that reply. And it's coming from her email address. It looks like her. And then a calendar, invite, whatever, Zoom link, whatever shows up on her calendar from that meeting. You can track all of that in there. That is, in the inbound world, like the lead gen, that's like the gold standard, because that will increase efficiency, and reduce how much time people are spent wasting on replying to emails, because you can just have a computer do it for you.
Yeah, no. I like to see now my take, and Randy, you probably have 100 stories too, is when you buy that one thing, and maybe it's a once a 3-year thing that you buy. I'm trying to think of an example in my head. I can't right now. And you get an email for it daily and then it makes me hate your brand. And it's like, I really like your product, maybe just go like, hey, if you really like this, refer a friend and get, a $5 Amazon card or something. To me, that's smart. Keep telling me to buy their product again, not smart. So I'm like, I don't know, like, there's got to be thought behind these things. The way you put it out, it's like, it's opt-in is the that's the key. But if I buy something too, like, you know what I mean? I think being subtle, opt-in and subtlety. And I think a lot of marketers miss that mark. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I was, with like that's the retail side, and the retail side, it's about daily touch points. They don't care, if you actually lose interest in their brand. What they care about is open rates. And the more frequently you send an email, the more likely you're going to have an open. The more likely you have an open, the more likely you have a sale. Typically, we never advise a client to buy a list ever. Just don't do it. You're gonna get blacklisted if you do, in my opinion. And so opt-in is best, and you got to come up with different strategies in order to get people to sign up for those lists. Whether it's a giveaway, whether it's at checkout when they're buying something in store or online, it doesn't matter. Get the email address and then send them stuff until if you don't get any opens out of them, you don't get any sales out of them after 6 months, dump it, because you're wasting you're wasting money on paying to promote to that particular person. You can move on to the next.
I think
I think that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think that opt-in on the email campaigns, and I know what you're talking about. I get them from, I'm not going to say who, but I get them all the time, and it's like something I bought 5 years ago, and I'm not buying this again. I don't never need it. It's
Right.
a wallet.
Right.
I'm not going to buy it. A wallet's going to last me 10 years. Stop sending me emails. And it's annoying, but ultimately it's going to keep them top of mind when you're thinking, oh, well, I bought this wallet. You know what? I think that, my dad might like this wallet. Let me buy him that. And then that's how you think about it. And it's about the open rate.
Yeah, fair. I want to switch topics a little bit, and a lot of it's social media / online reviews / what, strategies behind that, because I'm noticing like a lot of different brands have a lot of different strategies on how they respond to bad reviews, good reviews, B, how they respond to, let's say, a Twitter, whether or not they're trying to be funny. Like some of them are downright the best comedy writers I've ever seen in my life. And some, and you notice some people, like when you read reviews, because we used to do a podcast where we read 1-star Yelp reviews. Very rarely would they be a response. And if it was, sometimes it was good, sometimes it was poor. How are you working with your clients to, I guess, is the strategy mocking their personality, or what do you, which way do you go when you're tackled with something like that?
Well, let me start with Wendy's owns it, right? If you've ever seen Wendy's Twitter, and just they burn people all the time.
They're the best. They're the goats. Absolutely. Gold
Yeah.
standard.
So with that, for a small business it's typically not something I would advise for a small business to do, because it's not part of the strategy. I actually typically advise clients to just say, hey, if it's a good review, thank them. If it's a crappy review, show that you are making an effort to communicate with this person in a respectful way that allows them the opportunity to reach out to you and resolve the issue. And if the issue is resolved and the client is happy or the customer is happy or whatever, if it's not too tacky, ask them to update their review and leave the old review there. You gotta, every time you gotta just write update on review. You gotta change the star rating and write update. It's just having a basic message that says, hey, thank you so much for your feedback. We really find it extremely important. Here's my email. Please send me an email so we can help figure out a way to resolve this and get past this. I'm sorry this happened. Don't ever fight with them, because when especially in reviews on Facebook, that's a little different because it's about engagement. So the strategy and the point of that is different. I'll get into that, but on Google and Bing and Yelp and stuff, don't fight with them, because it's not going to go anywhere, especially if you want to try and get the review removed.
That was, go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say the best I've seen lately of a business creatively dealing with bad feedback is Bobcat Bonnie's just recently made shirts with a 1-star Yelp review printed on it. So all their servers are wearing shirts that say overpriced and gay, 1 out of 5 stars.
It's brilliant. I mean, that was how Worst Meatball Sandwich. Yeah, that's how that all started. But yeah, agreed 100%. Like, see, I had an issue. I usually don't leave too many reviews anymore. I had an issue with Metro Cars, and I didn't book through Metro Cars. The last time I'll ever do that. And it was, I got an Escalade. The guy showed up in a smaller car, and he's like, I called the owner, and he's like, driver lie. The driver's lying, and he's yelling at me. So I'm like, man, you don't deserve to be in this. If you're, he stole your tip, or he's just bickering with me. So I'm like, we've seen it all, like literally. And I think it's, what you kind of get at is just, being tactful. Cause I think once but you got to stand up for your business too. Like kind of like Bobcat Bonnie's. That's right now. That's the best thing I've ever seen, is taking a bad review and just mocking that person and putting them in selling shirts for it,
So it's funny. We've actually recommended that to a couple of clients and over the years, and each one of them is like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to advertise on that, that's the thing. But it's like, this is a ridiculous review. There is a difference between some review that's just completely insane and doesn't even make sense. We have clients that are in Royal Oak, and they got a 1-star review because of the parking, the on-street parking. And I'm like, we're trying to fight this on Google itself and get it removed because it literally has nothing to do with the business.
Yeah.
They're complaining about the parking system in the city. And the owner replied with this like 6-paragraph message that was really well written and was respectful, but it's not typically necessary because usually people aren't even reading those replies. So the shorter the reply is, the shorter that window is. So if it just says, "Hey, call me, let's talk," instead of replying to it, it serves a better purpose. Now, advertising the bad review because it's silly and nonsense is an awesome idea. And if you're on social media and someone mocks your post or whatever, or leaves a bad rating, you can reply in any way that you want, as long as it fits with your brand. And because ultimately, if your response is just like tongue in cheek, perfect, it's going to generate so much positive return for you because you're going to get massive amounts of engagement, and the algorithms is going to say, well, hey, guess what? This post was really good. We're going to start serving up more of your content to more of your audience at more frequent rates.
I was shocked at the exposure that a Google review got. Randy, I don't know if it's 10 or 100,000, but I remember when Larry brought out a bottle of Kessler at Temple Bar, and I took a picture of it and I posted it as a review. And I think it's hit 100,000 views for like a downtown Detroit dive bar. And I was shocked. It's like my most viewed picture, and it's literally just a bottle of liquor. There's nothing else. And I'm like, what in the world? So like, that was when I realized, not that, I was never a big fan of Yelp to begin with. Did you see it, Randy? Is that?
I'm looking for it.
Oh, all right. But like, we read a Yelp review of a new restaurant that just came out, and it's just, I'm shocked people are still writing books on Yelp. Like, I really am. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing it still around, or what? Because we used to get super involved with it, and quite frankly, it's tough to read these days.
I see books. I see 1-sentences. The ones that kill me the most are the 1-stars that have no comments behind it. The point of a review is to be helpful. That's the objective. You're supposed to tell them what your experience was. When you go in there and just tap a 1-star, it doesn't do any good. At least give some feedback. I'm usually, in my reviews, I don't leave too many anymore, but I have a couple hundred out there. In my reviews, I'm pretty curt and short. If it's really good, I'm like, excellent, highly recommend. It doesn't need to be much longer than that, unless you're trying to get those views on Yelp and Google, because that's a whole nother aspect and avenue of the review market, is the person placing the review themselves. It gives them some sort of self-validation out of it, knowing that, I have a picture of a lion that I posted from the Omaha Zoo from 2017.
Right.
That's seen like 60,000 views.
So I just did a review for the new DraftKings in Troy in Somerset. And the way I did it was walked in, place looked amazing, TVs are amazing. It's the perfect sports bar, solid 5. And I said, food, chicken sandwich was one of the worst things I've ever eaten in my life. That includes fast food, -2. Drafts, 6 beers on tap, -1. But then something else was +1. It was like 3.5. You know what I mean? So like, I kind of broke it down a little bit. Instead, if I'm going to write a review, I'm not going to just say chicken sandwich sucked 3. I'm going to, you're going to get to the good too. I think that's only fair, right? But
yeah, I think it is. No, I mean, I will depending on how deep it goes. I mean, there are, I can be middle of the road usually, but sometimes I can be pretty harsh in my reviews. It just depends on, like how they present themselves to begin with. If they're like, this is the best food in Metro Detroit, and I go there and it's like not, I'm going to tell everyone's like, this is not very good food.
Right.
Like, it was 1 star at most. And then there's times when people are rude to you and it's just like, let's not do that.
Right.
But it's important when both receiving the review the more feedback you give to the person, if the point of the review is to hurt their business, which it can do, it can sincerely
Absolutely.
do, then, if that's your objective, then write something that's scathing. If your point is to have a problem fixed, write something that gives them enough feedback to understand what the problem was. And if your point is to, just make a recommendation because you had a great job, still tell them, explain it. It helps the business owner know what they're doing right, and helps them knowing what they're doing wrong.
Sure.
A lot of times when some of our clients are trying to figure out how to go about marketing their product or something, and it's like new, and they don't know how, so they just focus on what it can do. This pen can write. Well, let's focus on something else. Let's take a look. The first place we jump to is the reviews. We want to see anything that seems to be out of the norm for the reviews. And let's say it says something like, this pen saved my life, right? And they go on the story of how the pen saved their life. Now, it's not just the pen that writes, it's the pen that writes and saves your life. And that's where we focus it all on. It's like, this pen has life-saving, features. I'm exaggerating a little bit on how we would go about it,
right?
But the idea of we come to that point. The weirdest things you can pull out of reviews are from both negative and positive. You could craft an entire message around your product that says, here's 5 things that this product won't do. Here's 5 things that this product will do.
Sure.
And that can all be pulled directly out of reviews, in a super unique way. It's driving the message home of what your product does at the end of the day for people that buy it.
I think
not what it is and not what it's for.
I just had one of the best sales classes of my life, and the last thing it was a feature benefits class. It's almost exhausting. Like, I almost feel like I need to do a reset with everyone that I know to not sell that way anymore, because I've had way too many show up, throw up meetings. But it's the same thing. It's not about the feature benefit, especially, it's the experience. It's how you feel. It's what they do for you. It's some things, is it saving you money? Is it saving you time? Is it ease of mind? You know what I mean? There's you got to find out what that niche is, and go to market with it. Because it's not about, you could have the best burger in town, but if your drive-through's 3 hours long every day, no one's gonna go.
Tell that to White Castle,
except for White Castle at 2 a.m, right? Exactly. Steve, I'm just thinking, just to wrap things up real quick, like when someone engages you and they're basically clean slate, are you looking, what are you looking at first and what are you looking at last? Or are you doing things in phases? What's like, hey, we got to make sure you're listed. Hey, we got to make sure your SEO's on point. Like, what's, is there phases to this, or can you do everything at once?
Everything in phases is good, because there's not too much for any one person to bite off, especially for someone who's just starting up. So if they're just starting up, then one of the best ways to get across and get, to get there is in phases, because it allows you the breathing room. Typically, we're going to start with a presence. You need a home base, because all marketing that you do, if structured correctly, should be focused on your website. All roads lead back to your website, because your website's your main point for analytics.
It's home.
It is. And people may not ever even travel to your website, but they might hit a landing page that's on your website that spits them back out to buy a product, or to book a meeting, or book a table, whatever. So website is one of the key places to start. Normally, if it's a fresh slate, we'll do a website combined with like a MailChimp account setup, staging, and then we'll go into and make a Facebook. All this is done at once, and it's all done. It's the Facebook and MailChimp are done well long before the website's finished, but the website gets done. Now you have some sort of base where you're able to sort of give updates, invite your friends, get people somewhat involved to help build up. Don't forget to invite your friends to your Facebook account, to your Facebook page. Always invite people forget that all the time. If you have 1,000 people on your Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, invite them to like your page, because at least 10 of them will. So that's still 10 more people you have following your page than you did before. But yeah, it is done in phases, and we usually start with a website, depending on how big or how small of a project. But it would be, the basics, the listings, the website, the Google account, all that stuff set up. Then we move into like strategy. We build out a strategy to tell you, this is your roadmap for how to get to your next stage. And we can give that to you, or we can just do it for you. Either way. Once that roadmap is in place, it can last and be as valid with good creative briefs and general strategy as 1 year or as 5 years. It just depends on where that marketplace is. If the marketplace is on Amazon, then you can do a 5-year plan. But if you're hinging on SEO to build your service-based business, for example, you have to do a 1-year plan because your strategy has to consistently change.
Sure.
And then that's when we jump into things like Google Ads and SEO. And if it's, I need business now, we make a website, get all the basic stuff out of the way. Then we'll move in and we'll jump to immediate results. The only thing that can generally get you immediate results is Google Ads and Bing Ads, is pay-per-click. SEO is going to take a while, no matter what. No matter how many backlinks you get, anything like that, in order to start generating leads off of SEO, you have to be in a question-answer relationship with Google and the search results that are coming up. If they're answering your question, if someone types a question and you're answering it, you're going to get organic leads from that. But with Google Ads, in most industries, we can just jump right in and get ads up that are really good, concise, and to the point, and business flows in. Unless you're a digital marketing agency.
Right. No.
Then it's really difficult to market. It's crazy.
It's the meta, you got to market yourself marketing. But hey, Steve Childs, appreciate the time spent. DorsayCreative.com. We're going to put the links up on the show notes, but really appreciate the insight and getting us up to speed on everything that you've been doing in the industry in general. So appreciate the time.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Absolutely. We're going to wrap things up for episode 456. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.